Hello Autobots and Decepticons, my name is Soulmongry and today I'm bringing you another Transformers Fall of Cybertron video. In this video I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks to get better using the Destroyer class. So the Destroyer class is the master of explosives. He has no precision weapons and uses weapons that create splash damage around your enemies, so it's always important to remember that when playing as the Destroyer. So a quick note, this will be a video based as if your Destroyer was at the level 25 maxed out, and also these will be more or less basic tips. They're not going to be extremely specific, but I hope these tips and tricks will help you guys improve your Destroyer class. So the Destroyer class, he is the second largest on the battlefield. He transforms into some sort of truck or possibly a dinosaur as well. And he has not the best robot speed, but it's up there quite a bit. And he doesn't have the best vehicle speed either, but it's also up there. And his health is the second best underneath the Titan. So he's kind of like the jack of all trades. He's good at everything, but he's not necessarily great at one thing. And I do recommend the Destroyer for new players. Alright, let's jump right into his weapons. First of all, he has rocket cannons from his vehicle form, and these are very good, and although they do have splash damage, they do have a sense of precision on them, and when you are using these in vehicle form, do remember that you are weaker in your vehicle form, but also remember that these rockets are pretty good, and they make for a great cleanup weapon, especially if you are out of ammo, which happens a lot with the Destroyer. You can always switch into your vehicle form and blast them with some vehicle rockets. Alright, let's jump into the weapons. His first weapon, the Riot Cannon, a modified fusion rocket launcher. Its enhanced exhaust rumble propels rockets forward to extremely high speeds, and this is a great weapon for him. It is kind of like the fusion cannon in the last game if you played it. It's got pretty good damage, as you guys will see the stats on the upper left, and it is a pretty good switch to weapon in my opinion. I feel like it's his more consistent gun, especially if you need to clean somebody up. I prefer it as my sidearm because then I can switch to it and clean up the kill, because the other weapons he has do a lot more damage, but this does have a pretty great range and it lets you fire off shots a little bit quicker than every other gun he has. So with the Riot Cannon, I don't think it's his best overall gun, but for my upgrades on it, I like to use the Planet Buster. That makes the last shot in the clip deal a significantly more damage over a large radius, and this is a very good option, but you have to remember not to reload your cannon. That is the one problem with that, and remember when you do transform into vehicle form, it will reload your guns, so you do have to have this out and shoot it down to the last clip to get the effect, but I think the effect is well worth it, so that's my personal favorite upgrade on it. My second favorite upgrade on it is the Ion Cartridge. This increases the amount of ammo within a clip. It seems to be always an issue with the Destroyer to find ammo, so this is never a bad option either. And the Sonic Blast, I think this is just okay. It increases the fire rate, but I think it fires pretty fast as is. His next gun, the Thermal Rocket Cannon. This is a heat-seeking rocket launcher equipped with the latest Hollow Master lock-on tech. Ammo is limited due to the volatile nature of the rockets. So this does a lot of damage. Very good weapon against somebody in their vehicle form, as it will lock on. Now the lock on does take a little bit to lock on, so you got to be patient with it, but I don't necessarily recommend always using it just on people in their vehicle form. I use it as a primary a lot of the times. It's got one cannon or one rocket in the chamber. You shoot that at their feet, and if you hit them with it, it does a lot of damage, and it works more or less as a good primary weapon. The only downfall is you're going to be searching for ammo, and the reload time takes a long time to reload this weapon. So for my perk that I always use on this, I use the Hyper Inner Link. This speeds up the reload time because of the time that it takes to reload, and because I use it more or less as a primary gun versus a lock-on weapon. Now you could also increase the ammo if you use it more sparingly, but I use it more or less as a primary like I was saying. Another option would be the Omega Pulse Charge. This would decrease the lock-on time, and so it would lock on quicker to somebody in their vehicle form. So it would clean up those people that are trying to drive away on you, maybe after you got them weak a little bit. But I personally think the Hyper Inner Link is the way to go on this one. And for my opinion on the thermal rocket cannon, I think this is his second best weapon overall. It does a lot of damage. I know the reload isn't there and the ammo runs out quickly, but you can really take down your opponents with this gun. Next up, we have the A4 Pulsar Cannon. This fires a slow but explosive plasma projectile with an immense damage radius. The projectile can be manually detonated at any time, so this is kind of like a ball of electricity that shoots out at your opponents. And in my opinion, this gun is his worst overall. I've used it a bunch of times to try and get kills. I do not think this gun is worth it compared to his other weapons. You could set up some traps, like booby traps, and then blow it up, or you can also shoot it at people that are flying above you. It works pretty well for that, and then detonate it at the right time. So I think the range can be a little bit better than what it shows, because you can shoot it straight and detonate it and not necessarily stick it on things. But I don't think this is the best choice for the destroyer class. But if I were to use this cannon, I would use the Cyberthermic Frag. This increases the fired projectile's explosive radius so that it will hurt people in more of a radius. Or another good choice, if you're pretty accurate with this, could be the Transwarp Ballistics. This would increase the projectile speed. But overall, I don't think this gun is necessarily worth it. It's a fun gun to play around with, but it's definitely not his best gun in my experience. Next up, we have my personal favorite and what I think is his most devastating weapon, the Kaos Rifkin Buster. This fires a Chaos Master Bomb that clusters out on impact or when manually detonated. Fire aim mode displays the bomb's trajectory for precision aiming. Now, I don't use the precision aiming too much because I can kind of guess where it's going to go, but this will shoot a bomb like it says, and then you can cluster it and it'll shoot down meteors, and if they step on these meteors, it will hurt them. And this gun also really hurts you bad, so you do not want to hit yourself with it, even though when you first maybe use it, your projectile will detonate before you think it's going to detonate, and then you'll fire another one and hit yourself with it. I've done that many times, and I've killed myself like that a bunch of times. And note that I probably should have mentioned a long time ago, all the destroyer's weapons will hurt him as well, so you got to be careful with that. And the Chaos Rifkin Buster, I love this gun because you can shoot it in somebody's face and then cluster bomb it as well, so it will hit them directly and then hit them around their feet. I think this is his most devastating weapon. All you have to do is shoot it into a bunch of people, detonate it, or just let it hit them and then it will cluster as well. And it also is a lifesaver because if people are chasing you, you fire this behind you and then they are forced to walk over these meteorites that are on the ground that cause damage to them. So overall, I think this is your best choice. My two favorite weapons to use are the Chaos Rifkin Buster for my secondary and my thermal rocket cannon for the first one, because I will shoot the thermal rocket and then I will switch to the Chaos Rifkin Buster. Or if that's not your style, I definitely recommend the Riot Cannon on there, because the Riot Cannon, it's a little bit faster and it will clean up your opponents, so there's multiple ways you could work this. Alright, let's talk about his abilities. He's got the Diffraction Barrier, which is a deployable barrier, and then you can shoot through this, but your enemies cannot. And also, it's always smart to lay this down before you get into a battle if the opponent sees you, or if he doesn't, lay it down like after you do the first shot. And if you do lay it down and nothing happens, you can always cancel it yourself to get it back quicker, so that's a pretty good tip for the Diffraction Barrier. And I personally think this is possibly his most useful barrier when it has the Ensnare attachment on it. The Ensnare will slow enemies when they pass through it, and then you can just unleash the fury with your Rifkin Buster, your Thermal Rocket Cannon, or your Riot Cannon. You can just go ape on them. And then also, if you're in a battle, you can throw this down in the middle of the battle when you get it back, and then the enemy will go through it without even realizing, and they will be slowed. So I definitely recommend the Ensnare on this barrier. I don't feel like the other ones are even worth using. In my experience, I've used them all a bunch, and I just think if you use this correctly, Ensnare is the way to go. For his next ability, he's got the Hover Slam. This grants the ability to hover in the air and do a ground pound. And this is a pretty good upgrade. I don't think it's as good as the barrier in my experience, but this will save your life and it will confuse your opponents, but it will also leave you up there as a sitting duck. But when you are hovering above high and mighty, you can shoot down your explosive weapons and then detonate your Chaos Rifkin Buster from above and really get a perspective on what is going on the battlefield and aim your explosive weapons in the right direction. I think that is a good idea because then you do not hurt yourself either when using the explosive weapons. And I think the Riot Cannon and the Chaos Rifkin Buster really excel with the hover. A couple tips that I can give you guys on the hover is if you are getting chased, definitely use that hover. Sometimes you will be able to trick your opponent, or if you didn't trick them, go down with the ground pound and maybe you can get away with them that way. But the ground pound ability at the end doesn't really do that much damage. They have to be really weak for you to kill them with the ground pound. So you really want to utilize the hover. A very good tactic to use against specifically a Titan. If he's going to whirlwind on you, use this hover, go above it, shoot down on his head because he won't have an answer for that right away. And then if he does look up, do the ground pound all the way down. It'll make them look from up to down, and that's a very hard adjustment to make while shooting. Now I think you can go a couple different ways on the perk for this. I like the aerial camper. It leaves you up in the air a little bit longer and then you can really use the hover. But if everybody's kind of paying attention to you and they all shoot at you when you're up there, it's not the best perk. You can also increase the speed of the hover, which isn't too bad, with bug out. And you can use dive bomb, which increases the hover ground pound radius, which I like because even though it doesn't do that much damage, it will do a little bit of damage and it actually has a better chance of hitting the person when going down. So I think you could go a couple different ways with the hover slam, but I would definitely use this at the right time. Save it for like the whirlwind when it comes up, or when you're in trouble, go up in the air. Don't purposely put yourself out there as a sitting duck unless you know that the enemy has no idea where you are, and then you could possibly use it like that. Alright, that kind of covers his weapons and abilities. Now a couple tips and tricks I can give you guys with the Destroyer is I like to jump up in the air and dash left and right versus the barrel roll left and right, because this not only elevates me off the ground and makes me a little bit higher up for my explosive damage weapons not to hurt me, but it also lets me use the splash damage better at my opponent's feet, because I more or less try to hit them either in the body or the feet. Every once in a while you'll see somebody get just like a lucky headshot with the thermal rockets, but with the Destroyer you definitely want to use his weapons as splash damage. And my overall #1 tip that I can give you guys with the Destroyer is patience. Don't just spam your Destroyer weapons. Now he's got the splash damage weapons, but that doesn't mean to just go crazy with them, because people are going to be dashing left and right. People are going to use the barrel roll left and right on you. Definitely wait for them to come out of that and then blast them with it. Be patient with his weapons. You will be more successful with the Destroyer. And if you run out of ammo, don't forget to use your vehicle rockets. You get a lot of them. Jump back, bounce with that vehicle form, and shoot rockets at them. So don't forget to leave your tips on the Destroyer class in the comments below. I'm curious to see how you guys use them. That's kind of how I use them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to leave a comment, give it a thumbs up if it helps you with your Destroyer class, and subscribe for more Transformers. Have a good day, everyone.